Knowing what I know now, would I do it all again? Someone gets hurt either way, I suppose. I did what I thought was right at the time.
No floppy disks detected.
That's all anyone can do, isn't it? Keycards were beginning to restrict everyone's access. Having the correct level of security clearance was important. Mullen was terrible at remembering to lock windows. I wonder if he ever realised his role in all of this. The guard patrol was quite loose at the facility, at least before all of this. They wouldn't be back anytime soon. Everything I needed was on that cartridge. Fate of a nation in ones and zeros. The Silhouette server housed hundreds of files on the Union Act. Immigrant families, voting preferences, you name it. At that very moment, our lives changed forever. I didn't want security to see me up there.
Steve,
We were already on edge from the server blowing. I made my way downstairs. The fire exit was the only route out. Once I was out, there was no way back in. The events that transpired next were out of my control. That green glow
Mrs.
was
Carson,
my only
it's you.
focus now.
I didn't expect you to still be here. I'm going to have to report you in the system. I'm sure you understand. Shouldn't you be leaving, Mrs. Carson?
The air smelt thick with something burning that night. Protesters were getting worse, even before what happened. As I walked further from the facility, I almost forgot how bad things were. The canal was always so peaceful. I remember someone listening to music on the canal boat. Funny. It wouldn't be safe to be out there now. The walk home usually helped me clear my mind after a day's work. That night was different. I was thinking about Michael, that he'd be sat at home waiting for me, that we had so much to talk about. The pre-Union Act was tearing the city apart, and it wouldn't be long before the whole country was rioting. At the time, I didn't feel like I could make a change.
All right, how you doing?
I didn't have a voice. The only way to stop the act from happening was to do something more radical, something, you know. I often wonder what he would have thought of me. I miss him more than you can ever know. He wasn't supposed to be. I didn't know. If I knew I was going to lose Michael, I'm so sorry, Michael. I just didn't didn't know. That's why we're doing this.
Not a great deal
That's
can
why
be
you're
said in
doing
favour
this.
of the past two governments' policies when referring to the UK's outlook on foreign relations. For a second time, the public opinion poll has shown dissatisfaction.
I've said this 100 times, I'm sure, but so sorry for your loss. A toast to the man and the memory. I imagine you'll need to take some personal time. That's fine. Just take what you need. I'll handle everything on my end. I know you and I see differently on a few things, but this is a time for solidarity, not turmoil. Well, perhaps with all that's happened, we can finally work together. Deal with things head on. Nobody could have seen this coming, Scarlet. You mustn't blame yourself.
Harvey Miller, do you ever answer your phone? I've finished editing the introduction to the Bowman Carson piece you sent me. It's good, but I think we can do better. Alex Dubois has claimed that he wasn't at the facility at the time that they say he set off the explosion. He also says the phone records from the night prove it. Apparently, Detective Holden has them. Anyway, your first meeting is tomorrow. Find out everything you can. The phone records are a good start, but I have a feeling there's a bigger story here. Anyway, get some sleep and I'll be in touch tomorrow. Harvey, your first meeting is with Carla Berman. Get there an hour early so you have time to look around and gather questions for your meeting. Follow any leads you can for the Miller report. Good luck and don't trust anyone.
You talking to me? Huh? You talking to me? I am your father. We weren't expecting you for another 20 minutes. Not a problem at all. Welcome to Bowman Carson. My name's Steve Crow. Apologies for the protesting outside. I hope it wasn't too hard to get through them. Okay, great. I just need to check through it. Sorry about this. Seems to be in order. Here's your ID badge. If you could just follow me to the security desk. Great.
Ah, Mr. Miller. We didn't expect you so early. Let me just print your agenda. Give me a second. Your first is... speak of the devil. Carla, this is Mr. Miller from the Turing Post. You have a meeting today, I believe.
Yes, of course. A pleasure to meet you, Mr. Miller. Is it that time already?
No. Mr. Miller is just fashionably early.
Good. For a moment I thought I was running behind. I'll be ready in my office for our meeting as scheduled. I have to run, I'm afraid, but we'll speak soon. Thank you, Dan.
Righty-o, Carla. Right, here's your agenda. Great. Why don't you read that over and put it in your briefcase for safekeeping? I suppose that's everything from me. If you need anything further, you know where I am. I've not got time to be playing around like this. What's going on over there? God almighty. What are you doing? Right, Mr. Miller. Let's go. Right, I've heard some alarming news. Steve tells me you've been found in a staff-only area. I cannot stress enough, Mr. Miller. The information housed in this facility is under the most strict protection. We can't have just anyone going through the public's private information now, can we? I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt this time. I appreciate you have a job to do. But so do I, Mr. Miller. So please, from now on, stick to the rules, okay? Your next appointment is with Miss Berman. I trust you know the way. God almighty, what are you doing? That's Mr. Miller. What's going on over there? What on earth? Right, Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller, you're fast becoming a thorn in my side. I cannot stress this enough. Out-of-bounds areas are forbidden to the public. You must not enter these areas. With everything happening in the facility today, I don't have the time to deal with a disruptive journalist. You're on a final warning, Mr. Miller. If this happens again, you will be removed from the premises. Go to your meetings, take your notes, and finish your report. That is it, okay? Your appointment is with Miss Berman. Take the elevator to floor 2 and wait outside. Mr. Miller, why are you here? Right, Mr. Miller. Let's go. Mr. Miller, why are you so insistent on being thrown out of here? Do you not enjoy your job, or are you just not very good at it? Either way, it's not my place to pass judgment. I've informed Carla Berman that we had to remove you from the offices. She wasn't best pleased. Anyway, I have a job to do, and so do you, I believe. Your next meeting is in the Meta Center with Chance Crow, and he isn't a person you want to get on the wrong side of. So a word of advice. Just go in, do whatever research you need to do in the designated areas, and go to your meeting. Don't force me to remove you from that building, too. I'll be waiting over in the Meta Center when you're ready.
Hi, I'm home.
Because we don't want our hands tied by the law every time we have to make a decision. But it won't be long. Just remember one thing. The world is changing around us. I agree. I have no idea why you're still wearing the same clothes you were wearing in the 70s. I'm not going to change your mind on this, am I?
Molly, you'd better be in bed when I get up there.
Coop, will you talk some sense into your husband, please?
Well, I'm staying out of this one.
Right, on that note, I'll see myself out.
You and Carol still here for Sunday dinner?
Don't forget to pass that folder on to Sarah in the morning, okay?
Wouldn't miss it.
Well, Mr. Miller. Look, I know we didn't get off on the right start, but I suspect you know the rules of the facility by now. Your next meeting is with Chance Crow very soon. Feel free to take a wander around in our gardens. I'll be waiting for you over in the Meta Center when you're ready to begin.
Right. I know most people couldn't be here today. It's the weekend, but I just want to thank everybody who was able to make it in. I guess I should start by saying that we will not be intimidated. We will not stand without a fight. The people who stand against us, they don't want change. In fact, they fear it. And they won't stop until we fear it too. I'd also have to say that...
Oh, not this again.
Yeah, sorry. I have a letter here from Mrs. Foster. Many of you may have known her son, who was sadly lost in the attack. She writes, My son was many things to me, and to those who knew him best. A loving brother, a good friend, and someone to make you laugh when times were at their hardest. I do not know all of you the way my beloved son did, but I like to think that all the things I saw in him, you also saw on a daily basis. Aaron wasn't the only person to be taken in that blast, but he is the only one I can talk about with any certainty. And that is to say this. He died knowing that every one of his colleagues will not let his death have been in vain. That the family he raised will not live in a world devoid of the presence of his actions. That his deeds whilst alive will live on through all of us in his death. And that we would not falter to do justice to his memory. To the memories of all the families affected in this terrible time. I do not know all of you the way my beloved son did, but I think fondly of you all, and I cherish the kindness you've shown our family in our time of need. Kindest regards, Jennifer Foster. Now, if we could all bow our heads, we'll observe a moment of silence.
That photo was taken the day before it all happened. The server room that held all the information. Destroyed. Amazing. I climbed a nail that tore my jumper. Can you believe it? My husband was found in the room next door, and for a split second I actually paused to care about a torn jumper. The Silhouette server. Somehow it had survived the blast. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. Trapped. No exit. And they said all the metal was burning hot. Did he suffer? That's the not knowing, isn't it? That's what really haunts you. Pulling the cartridge out took me back to that night. The deep thud. The loss of power. The police say that the building was unstable. Paramedics weren't allowed in for days. Burying Michael twice was almost too much to bear.
Apparently, security is tight in the Meta Center, so your second meeting might be a little harder. Try and give yourself another hour to prepare if you have the time. Alex Dubois worked for Chance Crow, so find out what he knows. Don't let me down.
Code accepted. Access granted.
Why are you here? I've not got time to be playing around like this.
Right, Mr. Miller.
Well, it didn't matter where you came from.
Let's go.
You only fit in if you chipped in. There's no bloody benefit. Took 10% less money than they do now than would be able
Mr. Miller, you're fast becoming a thorn in my side. I cannot stress this enough. Out-of-bounds areas are forbidden to the public. You must not enter these areas. With everything happening in the facility today, I don't have the time to deal with a disruptive journalist. You're on a final warning, Mr. Miller. If this happens again, you will be removed from the premises. Go to your meetings, take your notes, and finish your report.
And you know what?
That is it, okay?
Then put down your bloody big
Your next meeting is in the Meta Centre with Chance Crow, and he isn't a person you want to get on the wrong side of.
Half the words we use every day. All them artists, what you see on TV. If you're gonna get this.
Mr. Miller, why are...
I don't mean
Right,
to be rude,
Mr. Miller.
it really puts me in a sour mood.
Let's go.
You know.
Mr. Miller, I can't comprehend this. Why do you insist on breaking the rules? I've read your work. You're an accomplished journalist. Your work on Beirut and Jerusalem was thought-provoking. Now, as you'll notice, we had to remove your briefcase and cassette player. This is just a precautionary step, as we've been informed you may have been looking at some sensitive information. You can get your possessions back from Charles Bowman when you have your meeting with him. I'll see you in there.
Keep it down, Charles. You wake the children.
I don't see what you're going to achieve by keeping your share. Why not just sign it over to me? We both want the same thing here.
We don't want the same thing, though, do we? You don't mind if hundreds of people lose their home in the process?
Yes.
No, there's no grey here. There's a very clear answer.
I don't believe that.
Charles, voice.
I don't believe that. What are you going to do when there are protests calling for this company's dismantling? What will you do then? Oh, maybe you always wanted this to fail. You're risking jeopardizing all of Michael's work. You always resented him for working such long hours. If he wasn't trying to get the changes you wanted in, then he'd probably still be here. Look.
Get out. Mr. Miller, it's Scarlett Carson. Don't talk, just listen. We've not got much time. Get yourself into the IPA building. There's something I want you to see. I'll explain more when you're in. Hello, Mr. Miller. You may have guessed already, but I've been following your investigation throughout the day. I wanted to get in touch sooner, but could never find the right moment. It changes nothing. What happened, and thankfully, you removed the last remaining evidence that could tie anything back to me. The silhouette disc. So, I appreciate your help with that. Please don't. Almost done. We only have 30 minutes. See you, dude. Looks painful. Oh, Charles. What are you doing here?
Please sit down, Scarlet.
Charles? Oh, wait. Where's... No. No, you wouldn't. What the hell have you done?
Scarlet, please, sit down.
Sit down! Do you think taking my children's going to stop me?
Stop you from doing what exactly?
Where did you take them?
This is far more important right now.
More important
We
than...
need stability. The country needs stability, and this act provides that. Work with me.
This country needs its freedom. Michael wouldn't have agreed to this. He's the one that started this act, and he did it...
Michael is dead. This country is a far different place than it was 3 years ago, Scarlet. There's rioting in the streets, for God's sake. We need tighter security now more than ever. People on our doorstep want to hurt us. I can't allow that.
That's not your decision to make. The people need to know that their government is lying to them, and you can't threaten me into silence on this.
You can't see this right now, but you don't have another choice here.
Charles?
Open the file.
Hello, Mr. Miller. You have a meeting with Charles Bowman on floor 3. I'm sure you know the drill by now. That'll be all.
I've been going through more of Alex's interview tapes. I found something quite alarming that seems to have been very quickly dismissed. He says his keycard was stolen earlier on the day of the explosion.
Well, you have done your research. I feel bad for what happened to Alex. I really do, but I can't be held responsible for every little action taken. It may have sounded like Alex was the victim, but I can assure you, I felt very threatened by his message. You heard what he said. Everything that happens next is because of me, and we all know what happened next.
Just common sense. You can't crunch the data if you can't gather it. But the act is so much bigger than that. The immigrant problem is just a small byproduct of the act. Processing data is what it's really all about. And the silhouette is how we do that. What is it you think you know? You seem to have it all figured out.
Well, I don't suppose this will matter once she's sold all of her shares. She doesn't seem to want anything more to do with the Union Act or the Bowman Castle facility.
What do you mean by that?
She didn't tell you? Michael left his share of the company to Scarlet. That, along with her 5% share, makes her the controlling factor.
What exactly is it that you think I have to do with this, detective? Look, Scarlet thinks I'm a racist. She blames me for most things these days, so she's far too detached from the reality of things. I don't think she's capable of something so terrible. That being said, I didn't think Alex was either, so how wrong can you be? Ah, Mr. Miller. I didn't see you come in. We've been expecting you for quite some time.
Harvey, this is Charles Bowman, the man who seems to have taken your dossier.
Now, there's not much to go on from in here, so you must be hiding something else. If you are the journalist we believed you to be.
Harvey, did you do it?
What a curious question. I must ask. What's your decision, Mr. Miller?
Harvey, I meant what I said to you. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. If you hand that over to Charles, you'll lose everything you've been working for. Do you really want that to happen?
As you can see, Mrs. Carson and I haven't been able to agree for quite some time, and we seem to have reached stalemate. I'm afraid it's time to choose a side. As you can see, Scarlet, all of your best-laid plans have failed yet again. Well, I can't say I'm surprised. But once I found out that Scarlet had been seen around the accident site, trying to locate the silhouette cartridge from where Michael had passed away, I knew something was coming. I took the necessary steps to safeguard myself for a situation arising, such as this. Not to mention the encrypted information you tried to take out but failed to do so in this past hour, all caught on security camera. Well, whichever piece of evidence I decide to use, I could use it to create a story of coercion when Scarlett Carson's extreme steps to create a devastating explosion backfired. A journalist who spent most of his career in the Middle East and has written some quite extreme views on the politics of this country, returns to try to finish what she started. What a story that would make.
Charles, you wouldn't.
I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, but I gave you every chance to get me what I needed. And you decided to waste the time afforded to you. It will be a shame not to read any more of your insightful journalism. But when all's said and done, the coin simply fell on my side. I'm sorry it had to end this way.
Oh, and your children are fine. You know I'd never harm them. Carol's been looking after them all day. I can't believe you'd think that of me.
Please just go, Mr. Miller.
I'd been sitting there for over half an hour, trying to decide whether going inside would change a thing. It had been a year since I'd last stepped foot inside, since it all happened. Strange. It felt like a lifetime ago. I suppose Michael's death was the catalyst for all of this. Perhaps it fell apart long before. I said many things I wished I could have taken back. We all did. Scarlet, what did you do? I know we didn't see eye to eye on a few things, but she only had herself to blame. The things I didn't say. They spoke volumes. I couldn't believe Scarlet would choose what she did over her family, knowing how close they all were.
Oh, Charles, what are you doing? I knew I'd find you there. Oh, please, you need to leave it be now. Charles? Oh, you did everything you could to help her. You can't blame yourself for every little thing she did. Please, just come home, my love.